killed. Throwing high and across the middle.
Oh, that was 6 years of Daniel Jones. This is Tennis New York Giants Straight Talk. Powered by Online Big Blue LLC. Want to talk about Kyle McCord? Why like fungus on the bathroom tile floor? He seems to be growing on me. Bachelors would understand that. Also want to talk about Jalen Hurts and this weird conversation of, is he a top 5 quarterback? Dude just won the Super Bowl, and the man gets zero love. He literally lost the Super Bowl 3 years ago. And on his phone for the last 2 years, on his screen, on his opening screen or his screensaver, what the hell you want to fucking call it, he's got a picture of himself basically losing the Super Bowl 3 years ago. And he says he's still not removing that picture because he's not done yet. So he's gone to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, and he's won 1. And there's all this rumors and speculations that, well, you know what, he's not really a top 5 quarterback. He's a system quarterback. And most of this scuttlebutt, or most of this innuendos and stupidity comes from Giant fans because they just hate Jalen Hurts. That's all it is. You know, at one time, we are literally sitting there.
All right, 1. We're going for 1.
We're going for 1. We're going for 1 playoff appearance. Well, we've had 2 in the last, 11 years? So you can hate the guy for being, in your division. You could hate the guy from being your rival. You could hate the guy for winning, but you can't hate the guy's talent. And the speculation is he a top 5 quarterback? And is he just system driven? Well, let's talk about the system driven part for a second, because we're going to get into the Giants and the system and Kyle McCord. Lamar Jackson runs a system in Baltimore. Do you think you could take a Justin Herbert and put him in a Lamar Jackson system? No. Josh Allen runs a system in Buffalo. Joe Burrow's system is built around his skill set in Cincinnati. So you really can't take Josh Burrows and drop him into the system that they run in Baltimore. That's just the way it is. And that's just the way you got to look at it. Every NFL team's quarterback is built for the system that they're in by their head coach, their offensive coordinator, general manager, and everything else, except for the Giants, because we're too fucking stupid to figure out what our system even is. But every team runs a system, and every system is designed for that quarterback. So when I look at it, is Jalen a top 5 quarterback? But first, let's look at the fact that people are like, well, you can put anyone in that system, and he's going to win. Well, I think that if you take a look at the perceived top 5 quarterbacks or top 4 quarterbacks, I think if you put Lamar Jackson in that system, I don't think he wins because he runs a similar system in Baltimore. And I don't see him winning the big game because he hasn't won the big game in Baltimore. You can't put Josh Allen in that system because that system is not predicated for what Josh Allen does well now. Even though Josh Allen had 636 rushing yards last year, you still can't, in year 7 or 8 or whatever year it is, you still can't put him in that type of system because you're going to get him killed. You can't put Joe Burrows in that system because Joe Burrows is a drop back in the pocket passer. You can't put Jared Goff in that system. You could probably squeeze Jaden Daniels, but you're not going to get the same. I don't think you're going to get the same results. You're not putting Baker Mayfield in that system. You're not putting Patrick Mahomes in that system. You're not putting Matthew Stafford in that system. Because the system is built for Jalen Hurts. And I love it because I love when people go, well, he fumbles too much. Well, he fumbled 10 times last year. And let's see, Goff fumbled 7. Burrows fumbled 11 times. Let's see, Josh Allen fumbled 8 times. Lamar Jackson fumbled 11 times. But none of those guys have fumbling problems, according to Giant fans. If I had to look at right now in reference to have top 5 quarterbacks, and again, these are top 5 quarterbacks that fit in the system that they're in. First I probably have to go Lamar. Then I'm probably going to go Josh Allen. I would probably then look at Joe Burrows. And then honestly, at number 4, I would probably have to go with Jalen Hurts and probably Patrick Mahomes at number 5. Because all Jalen does is win. And people are going to be like, well, he has all those rushing touchdowns because of the tush push. Well, every other team can run the tush push. But guys still had 23. Guys still had 23 touchdown passes. Every other team can run the tush push anytime they want. The only problem is they're not good at it. It's a science, and they figured it out. Now, the league is going to figure out the tush push. I'm going to tell you this right now. It's like you go back to, you harken back into NFL history. And I'm going to talk about NFL history, and people don't like when I do that, but I like it. You go back to the 85 years in the 46 zone. Everyone thought the 46 zone, the Buddy Ryan defense, was going to be unstoppable for centuries. Oh, you're going to have all these mad blitzers. You're going to have these corners that can cover. You're going to have these linebackers. It's going to be this unbeatable system. Well, it was unbeatable for a year. And that was in 1985. Then the league figured out that if you pick up the rush, you have one-on-one coverage on both outside, both the left and the right sideline. You got one-on-one coverage. So they quickly figured it out. It's like the run and shoot offense, or the K gun, or whatever you want to call it. When Mouse Davis came in the league back in the day with the Detroit Lions with the run and shoot offense, also ran with the Houston Oilers under Jerry Glanville. Everyone was like, this is going to put up 100 points. Well, the problem is, put up a lot of points during the season, but then it collapsed in the playoffs because teams figured out that if you take away the short passing game, there is no run game associated with it, and your quarterback is built for a system to run these types of plays. And if you take those plays away, it's not going to work out well. So every team wants to run the tush push, but they can't do it well. The Giants couldn't do it at all with Daniel Jones. How many times have we seen Daniel Jones get stood up on fourth and short? How many times? I keep thinking about Kyle McCord. And I try not to. Because the Giants are going to do something stupid. And when you think of it, anytime the Giants look at a quarterback, it's a trap. It's a trap because they never draft one. Joe Shane is like a woman. He likes to window shop for shoes. The only problem is sometimes you got to put the shoes in the cart, Joe, even if they're that expensive. So, like I said, I keep trying not to like Kyle McCord. I really do. I try to be like, yeah, you know what? He put up big numbers at Syracuse, 4,700 yards, 4,779 yards, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, threw the ball 592 times for completed 66% of his passes. He was over in Ohio State for 3 years. He was on that 23 team that won 11-1. I mean, it was one of those things that he hit the transfer portal. And that was back when Ryan Day's decline, basically to say if he would McCord would start the team's bowl game, or even if they would commit to McCord as a starting quarterback the following season. So what does he do? He hits the portal, goes over to Syracuse, and I watched him play most of the season. Now you saw a nice progression from 2023 to 2024. Kyle McCord isn't a 1 year wonder. He's not a Dwayne Haskins RIP. He's a guy that over the last 2 years has started 25 games. It's thrown the ball almost 900. It's thrown the ball 900 times, at least 900 times. So he played in college, but he showed that nice progression from year 2023 to year 2024. Now, some people will say that the Syracuse Orangemen's schedule last year for that football team was not the was not the greatest. Was not against the highest talent. They did play a 23 ranked Georgia Tech team and won. They did lose to a 19th ranked Pittsburgh team. They lost to Boston College and they lost to Stanford. But of course, you forget they beat Miami back which was 6th ranked at the time, back in November 30th. So they did play some competition, and they moved up into the top 25 rankings at the end of the season after that December 27th win against Washington State. So they while their talent level was not, I would say, top tier, they didn't play teams like Furman. They did actually play some not NFL competition, but they did play some NCAA competition. And Kyle McCord was the reason for their success. He was the reason why they had the success they had. At 6'3", 224 pounds. I've said this before about Kyle McCord. I keep saying it. The guy's got a quick release. He's not Spencer Rattler from last year. Zing, a little release. No, he's not that. But the dude is mechanically sound. And I've said it on the stream, if you are looking for a quarterback who is mechanically sound and you want to go into the dictionary, you would probably see a definition of Kyle McCord. He's got a quick release, and his mechanics at times are flawless. It really is. And one of the things that I like about him a lot, he plays from the pocket. He understands how to build up timing, how to build up rhythm with the offense. I always use that old analogy, he plays within himself.
That's what she said.
But he plays well from the pocket. He's accurate from the pocket. He has excellent ball placement, wait for it, from the pocket. And he has this ability, and he has this understanding when to throw with touch and when to add some velocity to his passes. I watched almost every one of his games. Yeah, I come back from Miami, and I guess I'm just fucking bored that I'm watching Kyle McCord games. Now, the issue is, and here's the problem we're going to run into. One of the reasons why he's so proficient from the pocket is I would refer to his mobility as maybe average. And while you take a look at Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, they're both athletes. This guy is not what you would refer to as that prototypical athlete. He's not fleet of foot. He doesn't have he's not gonna consistently evade defenders here in the NFL because he just doesn't have that footwork. He just doesn't have that speed. And that when you have a bad offensive line is going to lead to disaster. But I'm not saying he's Will Howard. He's not a statue. He has good pocket presence and good pocket awareness. And he has good mobility inside the pocket. Now there's pocket mobility, which is mobility inside the pocket, and there's just mobility where you can get anywhere out. He understands how to play within the pocket. Now, when he is under duress, we've talked about this during the stream, his mechanics do break down a little bit. But when you're and I thought about this, and it was kind of weird. When you think about mechanics being flawless, if they break down a little bit, it's still better than what Daniel Jones was. Now, one of the other things I kind of dislike is, and again, like I said, is it more of what he had at Syracuse? He has a tendency to lock onto his primary receiver. He does go through his reads, but a lot of times he will lock onto his primary guy. You've seen it in some of the games. You've seen it in some of the losses. But I think some of that I think can be coached out because I think if he you know what, I hate to say it, he reminds me of Eli Manning. After watching all these games, if you look at his pre-snap reads, he does what Eli used to do. Eli Manning used to drive you fucking insane because he would get he would get the clock down to like 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second before he hiked the ball. And this kid kind of does the same thing, but he diagnoses coverage well. He goes through his progressions on his pre-snaps reads extremely well. And that's something that we haven't seen here in a while. You know what he does? Wait for it, and you're going to be shocked. He can audible.
Are you crazy? Ow!
Yeah, I'm crazy. What made you think I was sane?
Yeah, he can audible. I know, I'm fucking crazy. He can actually audible. And when looking for, everyone's talking, a lot of Giant fans talking about Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart, to me, doesn't have the arm strength. We pointed it out during the Senior Bowl game on that wonderful pass. I was like, you see that great pass it threw between two defenders? Yeah, well, if he actually throws it a little further and hits his wide receiver in stride, having him come back from the ball, that's a touchdown instead of a great catch by the wide receiver. And Kyle McCord has a nice deep pass. And I'm not picking on Dwayne Haskins, but when Dwayne Haskins came out, I did multiple videos that I did not the Giants want. I did not want the Giants to draft with Dwayne Haskins. I did not want another one season wonder coming into the NFL because there's a lineage of guys and our lineage of wreckage of guys who had one season that just in college football just did not progress well in the NFL. And everyone loved the deep ball. He threw over 50 touchdown passes. And I kept telling people, Dwayne is what I like to refer to as a lollipop thrower. And what I always mean by that is I got that from a scout back in the 90s. A lollipop thrower means you throw with a high arc. You're throwing over the top of the lollipop. And Eli Manning and Kevin Gilbride was most at fault of this. Eli Manning should never have been made the gunslinger that they tried to make him those first 5 years. You look what happened when he ran the doo-doos, more of a West Coast offense, because that's what he should have been running. But Eli Manning, even for that, he had a beautiful deep ball. He had a beautiful, early on in his career, the first 5 years, he had a beautiful, deep, arcing pass that had perfect touch and consistency. And you know what? I see the same thing in Kyle McCord. And you know what I love, too? This is a smart guy. This guy, I want to see what the Wonderlic gum is on this kid. Wonderlic means shit. But I'm just curious to see how he does on tests and things like the Wonderlic. Because he's got that high football. I always hate, again, I'm going to throw out the cliches because we need some baseball cliches. He's got the high football IQ. And he's a natural leader. They loved him at Ohio State. His team loved him at Syracuse. Now, like I said, there are things that are not to like. One scout, which I saw the other day, and I didn't understand it. I mean, I understood what he means, but I didn't really notice it until I pointed out. They said that he's going to have to adjust his arm angles to navigate the throwing lanes against the faster NFL teams, against faster and more athletic defenders. And you watch some of the games and you're like, yes, the problem is, again, like I said, he's got these perfect mechanics, and in some ways you need to go a little bit wonky to get the ball out. But he's got the size. He's got the size. I do think he's probably, a true 6'3". So he's got the size, I think, to get over into the throwing lanes. But like I said, and the other thing is, and again, we've talked about this with Shedeur Sanders. We talked about this with Cam Ward. He's kind of gotten the moniker of playing hero ball, Kyle McCord, that is. He's kind of gotten that stigmatism attached to him. I love it because I always love that phrase. He trusts his arm too much. Well, I'd rather have a quarterback that trusts his arm too much than a quarterback that doesn't trust his arm at all. But he does make some questionable throws in reference to when he is playing hero ball. But again, is that a product of him playing at Syracuse? You got to think about these things. And one of the things that I noticed right off the bat, and you have to go back and watch a couple. You got to go back and watch a lot of film, actually. But he throws with anticipation. Something that we haven't seen from the Giants in the last 6 years. He throws with anticipation. You go back and watch the deep curls and a lot of comeback routes. You watch him, he releases the ball before the break. So not only is he trusting himself to make that throw, he's trusting his wide receivers to be where they're supposed to be because he's throwing with anticipation. And I would love to see that with the Giants. All that being said, though, I'm not taking him third overall. I don't want to start another Joe Milton frenzy where I said Joe Milton had all the athletic ability to be an NFL quarterback. He does. Proved that with the last game of the season. You know what? You could never take anything away from Joe Milton now because he won an NFL game. How many people in this world can say they won a game in the NFL as a starting quarterback? So that showed he had the ability to start a game in the NFL. Like I said, I'm not saying it's a type of situation where it's a Heath Schuler or a Gus Frerotte or an RG3 and a Kirk Cousins. I'm not saying that with Drake May and Joe Milton. I'm just saying Joe Milton has the athletic ability and he has all the intangibles to be an NFL quarterback. And I think Kyle McCord is the same way. I'm not saying taking him third overall. Hell, I don't even think you take him in the second round. If you can grab him in the third round, I'd be happy with that. Now, the problem is you're going to have to watch his draft stock. If his draft stock starts going up, you might have to grab him early in the second round. Would it be a reach? It really depends on what you do with that third pick. If you take Travis Hunter with that third pick and decide you're going to make him more of a primary receiver, and then you grab Kyle McCord in the second round, no, I don't think it's a reach. If you go defense, which I'm worried they're going to go something stupid like Mason Graham, and it's not that I have a problem with Mason Graham. I think Mason Graham is going to be an excellent player in this league. He just is not what the Giants need. You can't keep attaching these guys to the defensive line and then hope somehow we're going to figure out how to play the run on the edge, because we haven't figured that out since Joe Judge's last year. But if you go defense and you grab him in the second round, yeah, I think it's a reach. It really depends on how the draft breaks. But if you went out and got Kyle McCord and you went out and told me that Kyle McCord is going to be in play for the quarterback for the New York Giants in 2025, I'm not going to be upset. I know Big Pat Sports is going to be upset because he's not black. And he always says, I like just to go to the black quarterback just to pander to the audience. I think Kyle McCord is white. I got to check. Let me check. Kyle McCord's white. But he would be an interesting guy to bring in. You know, he's got a little Baker Mayfield in him in reference to his attitude, but he doesn't come off as dicky. He's not Josh Rosen. And Josh Rosen, like I said, I said a long time ago, I told Giants I told all my listeners, said steer clear of Josh Rosen because the guy's going to be a fucking head case in trouble. And I don't think that's what Kyle McCord is. I know Big Don, who's a big Syracuse fan, is going to love this video. Oh, we're going to make sure we're going to do a live stream maybe on Sunday. I got to get back to those afternoon live stream. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell if you want to know why. That'd be awesome.